Welcome to Cat the Minion YouTube channel. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. I've tried to do this like 6 times to make sure that it's in focus, and I'm having a really hard time, so I'm hoping that it's alright. Maybe it's because these are small and they're plaid. It looks kind of fuzzy. So I'm doing a review of tarot deck. This is a new thing in my channel. So I'm starting with the basic deck. And the most basic deck that I have is in my Mini Rider-Waite. And well, anyway, it's 3 inches by 1.5, or in centimeters. It is, oh, it's still inches. Let me put it on the side. Centimeters. 7.5 by, come on deck, be cooperative, by about 4.2. Alright. It's teensy, it's little. I like to, well, I'll have to do a little view of how it shuffles after, because I've got the cards all in order now. So I'm going to start, so little bite-sized, snack-sized cards here. Sarah, somebody that did the drawings for this original deck. I don't remember what the rest of her name is. So the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Chariot. Strength is 8 in this deck, sometimes it's 11. The Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune, Justice, the Hanged Man, Death, Temperance. Move these up. And I am going to hold all these up to the camera. I mean, a lot of people have seen these already, but these are just smaller. We have the Devil, the Tower, the Star, the Moon, the Sun, Judgment, and the World. Okay, I'm going to do the minors after. So just 0. Weird shadows over here. I guess my craft bucket isn't affecting the light. But anyway, 0, Magician. There's a lot of decks that are essentially the exact same as this deck, but basically in a different font. Like somebody copied them exactly, but like in their own style. Like how in Mona Lisa's Smile they all did the same paint by number and it came out slightly differently. So in a lot of decks, like the Morgan Greer, for example, the imagery is almost identical in most of the cards. And I find that true of a lot of decks that I've seen. The ones that I only have like 20-something decks right now as I'm doing this, so I don't have a lot of repeaters, but there's a lot of tarot decks out there that I've seen other readers using that are basically this same deck with a different background, and it might be like a watercolor instead of a colored etching, like these guys. Hangman. Death card. So this is basically the standard that we know right now in the modern era. A couple of black cards, Devil, and the Tower. When I was sorting these out, I didn't realize how pretty standard Moon card. You know, what always bothered me is that the Sun, the naked baby, riding a horse as they do, Judgment, and the World. So with these, I believe that the color of the card itself is supposed to be relevant to what's going on. There's these ones, it's yellow. There's the Emperor, I think, is the only one that's got this textured orange, but he's got Aries energy, so that makes sense. He's pretty toasty. So we have yellow, blue, light gray, and then black for these two. And then the Hermit stands out in this sort of desaturated teal color. So these two are unique, and then these two as a pair are somewhat unique. Technically the background for Justice is yellow, it's just hard to see because there's so much taking up the frame. I don't know if that's really relevant. The Lover's card is technically blue, but there's a lot of sun there behind the angel. So, for stuff that's sort of interesting to what I'm looking at on this deck, there's a lot of decks that will change the titles of certain decks. The Magician is called different things in different decks. Strength and Justice are sometimes switched numerically. 8 and 11. The Lovers can be different in a lot of decks, but it's usually still called the Lovers. Death can be called different things, like Transition, Ascension, whatever. Temperance is sometimes called different things. I think the Tower is sometimes called different things as well to make it not so scary sounding, and the Devil can be called something else as well. But most of the other cards keep the same names. Judgment can be called Karma in some decks. So it's sort of like the more decks you have, the more understanding you can have of what different aspects it involves depending on the name. So if I see the Death card in this deck, I might think of it as being Ascension or Transition. There's a lot of people that won't read cards if they're inverted. So each of these cards for me takes on different meanings when it's inverted. That's not always just the opposite of what it means upright. There's other meanings that I take on too. The Hermit can be an inner child for me. Strength could end up being stubbornness, perhaps. Anything that ends up combining back down to 7, like the Tower, could have to do with movement. 5 can be a shift or a pivot, so there could be something going on with the Hierophant that's also going on with a 5 that breaks down from a 14. So these cards end up being related. Anything that breaks down to a 2, Justice and the High Priestess, 11 and 2, can be related. And I usually see them as different vibrations of the same thing. For me, Justice is a lower vibration than the High Priestess, but if this is in the same tier, then it could be like the next level up. So it's sort of there's different ways that it gets stacked. I don't know if there's anything in particular that I want to say about this. Typically with the Tower, it'll be on fire. A lot of the times there'll be lightning on it. There's little flying flames out here. There's smoke. And there's often water at the bottom. This looks like it's more on a rocky outcrop or an iceberg, and there's usually a couple of people falling out of the Tower. The Devil is usually the anti-lovers. Instead of the angel, there's the devil there, and the men and women are chained, and his tail is usually on fire, and they've got little horns on their head. Oops, I switched them in the wrong spot. Is there any other ones that really go together? I mean, obviously the Emperor and the Empress tend to go together. And then the Magician and the High Priestess are going to be doing the same kind of thing. For me, if I add the 2 of the High Priestess and the 3 of the Empress together, it brings me to the Hierophant. It's not always the Pope or people getting married. For me, it's a union of the spiritual and the material. So a lot of the time, some of the other cards, it might be called religion, or you might see a bunch of people reading from their different various religious texts. So it has a connection to the spiritual, and it's not always through organized religion, even though that's how it's represented on the card. So it can be the marriage of the spiritual and the material, or it can be of the two people. Here it's just a couple of bald-pated friars. So I see the High Priestess and the Empress coming together with the psychic and the material abundance, becoming the Hierophant, and the Magician and the Emperor coming together to be the Hierophant. And what we do see is this red robe. But I also see Justice in the Emperor with their robes being red, and a little bit this also being similar. And then the Magician also in a robe that's red. And usually the Magician and the Strength card, they're both yellow on the back here, but they have little infinity hats. But he's got one of each of the element there. What else can I say about these? The Judgment card here is pretty standard. It's like usually a man and a woman and a child coming out of their tombs. The Star card is almost always this woman with her limbs arranged somewhat in a swastika shape, because it didn't used to be evil until the Nazis took over that particular shape. But she's sort of in an angular spiral shape, even though her arms are not following the pattern. But usually a woman who's nude pouring water into the river. Moon card often has two pillars and a couple of dogs. And here there's a lobster on it. Sometimes it's different depending, but often there's the two pillars. Are they... I thought they were on another one of these cards, those two pillars. Oh, it's in the Death card. The Death card. So these two pillars where the moon rises and sets between, there's a megalithic astronomical alignment. There we go. And then here on the Death card is those same two pillars aligned to a sunrise. So it's sort of looking into the distance. So we have something dying and then something coming in. But I did want to speak about these cards being inverted too, because for me the Hangman takes on the number 12 and is synonymous with the Knights. And I will show the Knights, but when this card is inverted, it's a waking up. This is I'm waiting for the downloads, I'm waking up, and then on the next level, like now I don't have to hang out all day to get a message. It's just kind of, the crown is lit up. So this is like the first initiation. So also similar to this, so we have the masculine and the feminine energy coming together. And there's the angel that's sort of helping them out, or their higher selves or whatever. And this is like the same unit ready to move on. It's like, oh, we've met up finally. Now we're acting as a unit. We're team working it out. I don't think there's that much else to say about these cards right now. The Sun card often has this, a sun in it, obviously. There's sunflowers, and a lot of them will have this naked toddler on the horse with a flag. So this is a fairly standard situation. There's stuff going on with the Hermit too. It's supposed to be about going inside, but it is Virgo energy, so there's an aspect of the inner child involved in that potentially as well. But let's look at these. Ace of Wands, Two of Wands, Three of Wands, Four of Wands, Five of Wands, Six of Wands, Seven of Wands, Eight of Wands, Nine of Wands, 10, the Page, which could be a 1 or an 11, The Knight can be a 1 or a 12. Queen can be a 1 or a 13. And the King of Wands can be a 1 or a 14. So there's actually a lot of chartreuse in here, but a lot of these cards, it's not necessarily the card itself, but the characters are in orange and yellow. So there's a lot to do, and some red here too. There's a lot to do with the lower chakras. Alright, so notably phallic, one of the two more masculine suits. This is like in a Punnett square, it would be like masculine. And the seat of Wands energy is gut. It's the gut instinct. It's the neurons in your intestinal walls. Right? Intestinal fortitude. You could say that each one of these cards is related to the major arcana of the same number. Right? This could be related to the Magician, but it's a much lower vibration because they're only a one-trick pony. The 2 related to the High Priestess, right? I'm trying to make a decision, but I'm not getting any downloads. And I am only seeing things from one point of view. The 3 of Wands, looking out for the future. Right, I'm trying to become abundant. That's an Empress energy. There's a growth trying to be established. And also grounding as well. The 4 is traditionally a foundational number. It's also a lower vibration of the Emperor here. In a matching fire suit, because this is Aries energy, and this is, I think this is Venus in Aries? Yeah, this is Venus in Aries. But we see there's yellow energy here, that's solar. There's a masculine and a feminine here celebrating. They're potentially just getting married. Oh, I did want to point something out too about the major arcana. They have a bower here, and we see there's 2 sticks here and 2 sticks here. It's giving this 11-11. 11 can be universal timing. It can also be a twin flame number. It's like the masculine and the feminine coming together in a way that's representative similarly to the Lovers, but different because the 11 number is like a completion with another beginning, which is where the Page sits in the 11 as well. But here we have 11-11. It's like double time, ready to go. Let's build it up. Like, build me up, Buttercup. Let me get back to... Oh, I know what it was. It's the Pentacles. It's the Queen of Pentacles. The Magician is one of the very few cards in the deck that has this bower up here. Greenage, Hanging Gardens. The Queen of Pentacles has one too. But we're not there yet. Okay. So this 5 has that Hierophant number, but this is a very low vibration. This is, you know, my God could beat up your God. And then chaos ensues. You know, it's like I'm not seeing a higher purpose. You looked at me funny. This is a victory number, right? It's like hey, did you see that guy over there? But it's like hear that, you slimes, I'm famous. It's a lower vibration of the Lovers, but the Lovers can be a choice, and it could also be a weighted decision. It's like he's the chosen one. And there isn't really a lot of balance there. It's sort of one-sided, which could easily slip back into this jealousy. But the way that it describes in this tarot is that immediately the guy that just won in the 6 there has to stay in motion, 7, because everyone else is going to want to knock him off that pedestal, right? He went from taking off the celebratory robes back to his gym outfit because he's got to beat off all these mofos. But this card is unusual in that there's no person or hand or anything in it. Right? This is a like communications hub. Like different, right, it's like, it's not 5G, it's 8G. It's all the telephone lines. So this is, I mean, this can be indicate fast movement too, but 8 is strength, right? It's like I'm building up the energy to move, to go, to talk. There's a message, right? It's like all of these are arrows that have little notes tied to them. And the 9, what is the 9? Oh, the Hermit is the going within, right? This is a low vibration of that, and it's just like I've been holding this post for a long time and nothing's happening, right? It's like when I try to meditate, nothing happens. When I try to go within, I just think about what I had to eat today and whose birthday it is next week and all this other stuff. It just gets like a stagnant energy. There's nothing really happening. And again, it's this low vibration of going within. Like, this guy's not going anywhere. 10, the wheel, has to do with luck, and it also has to do with movement, but it also has to do with completion. It also has to do with these, like, shifting grand time scales. Right? It's like watching the clock tick. And it's like, oh man, I gotta get all these reports done. God damn it. This is like, I don't know how much more of this I can take, instead of I'm ready to hop on that train. I mean, low vibration. So, and I shouldn't just like go through what all these mean, but it sort of sets it up for when I talk about other tarot decks in the future, because they're all sort of going to be compared to these ones. Page of Wands. He's looking for information in these pyramids over here. He's got his fancy hat on. He's ready to go. And then the Knight of Wands has an upgrade. He's on the other side of the pyramids. He's like, I learned how to ride a horse, motherfucker. But he's also a little bit like, he doesn't have entirely control of the horse. A little bit of hot under the collar. Queen of Wands usually has a cat with her. Most of the time it's a black cat. She's supposed to be really psychic. She can also potentially be a biatch. A little... But she has a lot of gut instinct. A sort of creative feeling out of stuff. And she also has, as a queen with the potential 13, she has this bringing things to a close and regenerating them, right? It's sort of like that phoenix energy rising from the ashes. So that's something that she possesses. And then the King of Wands should also be psychic, because he has gut feelings too. Low vibration of the Emperor. Notice that the background is the same color as his dress here. Usually has salamanders or lions or something. We got lions here. There's a couple of salamanders. These guys both have salamanders on their outfits. And their little togas. He's got a lizard down here too, which I don't know if a lot of the King of Wands have lizards or not. And I don't know if he's always facing left either. But I feel like there's a lot more variation in the King of Wands than there is in the Queen of Wands. There's supposed to be differences in them depending on like their skin tone and their hair color, but I don't really care about that. So that's the basic wands set. I think I'm going to have to start another segment because I have to go to the bathroom. Alright. Ace of Cups. There's a 2. The 3. 4. The 5. 6 of Cups. 7. 8. 9. 10. The Page, or 11, or 1. Knight, 1 or 12. Queen, 1 or 13. And the King, 1 or 14. Okay. So, Ace of Cups is usually shown as the cup overfloweth. There's, on the aces, you'll see there's usually a divine hand in the regular deck comparison. This one, there's a dove with a wafer as well, and there's a lot of the time there's an ocean scene underneath it. So, low vibration of the magician, this time learning water magic, chemistry, solutions, whatever. Now, the Two of Cups is really obviously a low vibration of the lovers in the relationship, especially with these red wings here. It's just lower strength. A little bit of line, but not too much. What's interesting is that this guy's outfit looks like clubs almost on there. But it looks a lot like the Page of Wands. But it's not got salamanders on it. It's just a more generic pattern. And the woman here is dressed a little bit like the High Priestess. How is that? A little bit like the High Priestess. But this can also be a choice, or it also has to do with healing too. Right? It's like, I gotta get some medicine because I don't feel good, or like, hey, we both like each other. How about that? Or it's like, I'm starting to figure it out kind of energy. But usually the Two of Cups is more obviously like relationship. Oh, it's a 4 that's moon, okay. So Three of Cups is usually like party, celebration, low vibration of the Empress. So we see, here she's separated into the threefold goddess. It's supposed to be the Mother, Maiden, and the Crone, but they're all young looking. It's like the three fates. They're all, it's a low vibration of the Empress, right? So all of the trifold goddess is operating in this maiden energy, sort of Virgo energy, sort of like la la la, having a good time. It's not like I don't have to buckle down and get serious and learn how to be psychic. I don't have to worry about having kids yet. It's just like whatever, fun times in that sense. But usually it's like party all the time kind of energy with that card. And you can see that it's often represented as the three women dancing in a circle holding their cups up, or it's three people of some sort in the card. So Four of Cups, usually the divine cup hand with the kid on the tree looking at the three cups that he doesn't like and just being sort of apathetic. Low vibration of the Emperor, right? It's like I'm not, in this case it's sort of like there's no initiative to be a master of anything because everything sucks. Right, this is the Emperor when he was 14 and emo. And then the Five of Cups, low vibration of that Hierophant. And here it's like gone beyond this. It's like I'm not just emo, I'm a morose motherfucker. But the Two Cups are usually behind and the Three Cups in front. It's like, ooh, all that partying, and now I have a hangover and what has become of what I really wanted. So that's usually the Five of Cups. It's usually sad, heartbroken kind of energy. Often shown as the character with the dark robe, but there's a lot of different variations of this, but it's usually 3 cups and 2 cups separated. And, Six of Cups is usually the 2 kids. Usually it's a slightly larger boy giving a cup and or flowers to a smaller girl. Not always. It's usually like nostalgic feelings, remembering when you were little. It's a low vibration of the lovers as well. Technically, this can be a low vibration of the High Priestess being 2, but usually I see, a lot of the times I see the 2s as a low vibration of the lovers. even though the 6s can be also. I should point out, too, that when this is reversed, it does give off this idea of not romanticizing the past. There's very specific, for me, there's a lot of specific inversions. 7 of Cups, people usually say it's options. I've seen a bunch of channels where every time they get this card, it's like, oh, you and your person has options. And that might be true for the people that are watching that, but it's never really gelled for me. For me, it's distractions. This is like a kid in a candy store kind of energy. It's like getting a 2-year-old too many presents, and then they don't know what to play with, and they get upset and they can't do anything. All right, give them a paper hat and some crayons or something. And again, this has a low vibration of 7, the Chariot, right? It's hard to move when you can't go in a certain direction for more than a few seconds because something else pops up like whack-a-mole. 8 of Cups is usually a beach scene with somebody walking away from 8 Cups. Not always, but there's almost always a mountain. If it's like if and or beach and mountains, and the cups all stacked up with somebody walking away from them. But it's like I need to let go of this to get over this challenge, right? The mountain can be a challenge. So usually, and sometimes there's a moon on there as well. Is that a moon energy, 8 of Cups? No, it's Saturn and Pisces. That's another thing too, because the High Priestess is supposed to be Piscean, no, supposed to be moon energy, and the moon card's supposed to be ruled by Pisces. And I'm like, that's really dumb. So when I read, unless there's some other cards to verify, I'm like, this is Piscean energy, this is moon energy. Why the moon shouldn't be the moon, I don't know. Somebody was high that day or something. Makes me mad. Okay. So here's 9. This is a low vibration of the Hermit, technically. But when I do get into these 9s, this one, the 9 of Wands. What the hell is that guy? There we go. 9 is half of 18, so these take on sort of lower vibrational moon phases for me. Alright, this is a dream, right? Merrily, row your boat merrily down the stream. Wait, what? Row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. I don't know why I couldn't say that right. But this guy, he's usually drunk. In some cards, they get a close-up of his face, and he's beet red and friggin' glazed. But this is, you know, being cheerful, happy, contentment kind of energy. That's a dream state. This is more of a nightmare. This is like never ending. I've had this dream every night for the last 10 days, and it's the same, and it's annoying. Like, I can't find my keys, I have to go to school naked, I can't find my locker, that kind of stuff, where it's like a low-grade nightmare, and this is sort of a dream state. So those 9s in the minor arcana for me tend to take on more moon energy than they take on hermit energy. Although nightmares often can be sort of the play domain of the distorted inner child in that sense. So here we have a 10. The ha moment. This actually looks a lot like the 4. This is like the 4 of Wands before they built the big castle. Alright, we just bought this plot of land. Everything's going like bananas here. This is awesome. Happy home, contentment, whatever. Like, everything is sparkly and happy. This is like the same people, and they just decided to upgrade, kind of. right? We got to build the foundation for the new house. But right now we've got this plot of land and everything's hunky-dory. This card, there's often a rainbow on it, I think, but there's also usually the couple and sometimes the kids too. Page of Cups usually is holding a cup with a fish in it, and he's always kind of like, I don't know, man. A lot of the time he's on the beach also. Knight of Cups, I'm not always sure of what the background is. Maybe it's, but he's got a river and possibly a mountain here, but his horse isn't out of control. It's just kind of trotting along. Knight of Cups. Queen of Cups, usually in the ocean with a cup with a lid on it. And when she opens it, there's usually supposed to be a fish in there. She's Psychic Queen. Emotional Queen. King of Cups, usually balanced emotions. Some people say that means that he keeps it hidden. He's got kind of a clammy exterior. But he's also on the ocean. As a 14, which is related to temperance, he should be in balance. Right? He doesn't rule from emotional standpoint. He's not reactive. And the same with the Queen as well. Alright. So let's get into swords. Get the swords on this deck. We got the Ace of Swords, another cosmic hand. We got some mountains down here. Ace of Swords often has a crown on it. Some different laurels hanging down. Two of Swords. Usually a chick blindfolded, playing with her swords by the ocean. A lot of the time there's a moon on the card. This is the moon in Libra. Three of Swords, almost always shown as three swords piercing a heart of various realnesses. Four of Swords. This stained glass window in here is, I believe, the Six of Cups. That sometimes it's hard to tell, but a lot of the time there's a stained glass window in it. Usually the guy on a tomb with a sword underneath him and three over. Not always. This is a low vibration of the Hanged Man for me. It has the same symbolism, even though 4 can be a low vibration of the Emperor. It's like this here itself is the Emperor, but the overall idea is that of the Hanged Man. But it's coming in at a low vibration, because when this card is inverted, it's like I'm waking up. The same as with the Hangman. But the energies are different, because the Hangman is Neptunian energy, and the Four of Swords is traditionally Jupiter in Libra. Although I did reassign it Neptune energy. When this is inverted, it's usually not being able to see from someone else's perspective. This is like trying to figure out how it is from in the other when the shoe's on the other foot, kind of. Five of Swords. This is usually, it's like the last man standing, or it's mind games, head games, mental gymnastics. Six of Swords is often a guy rowing a boat with a woman, and often a child. This is usually what I call the sailing away from the bullshit card. Now, specifically when this one is inverted, it's my I need to go deeper card. But almost always Six of Swords. Somebody in a boat, usually a woman being rowed by a man. Seven of Swords, sneaky ninja guy. There's almost always two swords separate from the other five, representing those the lovers. There we go. The truth and the other truth. Eight of Swords, almost always a woman loosely tied up with gauze, surrounded by a little thicket of swords. That's usually the wanting to break free card. Usually it's like your own internal mental prison. Nine of Swords. This is like, I don't have the strength to get out. This is like there's movement, but it's dishonest. Sneaky. I think that's a moon in Aquarius. This is another half nightmare card. Anxiety, bad dreams. Took too much Ambien and all fucked up. Interestingly enough, these two are black. Like the Devil and the Tower, very few cards are black. But this is like overkill. What's weird is that this is the Sun in Gemini. You'd think a Sun card would be brighter. But it's like there is no light without the shadow there. But yeah, this is like way too much acupuncture, dead on time, overkill. I can't, like, the last straw, the straw that broke the camel's back, there's a completion in that because it's a 10. The worm has turned. 11, Page of Swords. He's usually looking a little clumsy. Knight of Swords, the fastest knight. He's got Shadowfax there. He's hustling. The wind at his sails there. Queen of Swords. I think she's often in profile, but I could be mistaken. Sometimes people say she's a biatch, but she's not always off with his head. She just doesn't mince words, let's put it that way. King of Swords. The Truths. So that's what's going on in Swords. Thoughts, perceptions, communication. Okay. So well, not most, but a lot of other decks will be based on these same ideas. Sometimes it's a guy crawling in a window. Sometimes it's a little bit more Phantom of the Opera than whatever those flatboats are, getting pushed across the lake. This card is almost always the same. Sometimes it's just the sword showing. This is almost always a dude with the swords in his back. Sometimes he's standing up. Sometimes it's a buffalo with a bunch of swords stuck in it, depending on the deck. This is almost always the same. This one can be different. Sometimes it's more of a distinct battlefield. More or less the same. This one is usually the same in most decks. Knight of Swords, again, usually shown as quite speedy. And the King and the Queen of Swords, usually shown up on a mountain. Okay, so that. Oh good, I didn't run out of time yet. Alright, so the last bit here, the Pentacles. Oh, so there's the Ace. So there's this little, there's a little archway there, the mountains behind it. Almost always you'll see that on this card, depending, like, from deck to deck. And I feel like that's on another card, but I don't know if I've gotten to it yet. This is in the background of another card somewhere. I did it again. Okay, so there's the Two of Pentacles. Usually a guy with a funny hat, with this cat's cradle thing with two pentacles in it, and usually he's on the beach. In this case, there's ships in the background. This one is more of a choice if it's a low vibration of the Lovers, but again, as the High Priestess, it's like I'm not getting, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not getting any downloads either. Can't figure it out. Gremlins in the machinery kind of a thing. So the Three of Pentacles is typically architectural. It's usually a guy training as a mason, building a new cathedral. This one's a little bit more complex. They're showing it like it's a motorhome to this guy with a lyra pipe. Four of Pentacles, almost always some king-looking figure. It's got two pentacles underneath, one on his head and one in his hand. Sometimes the configuration's a little different. It reminds me of those Velcro like frisbees that people used to throw the squishy balls at. They're stuck to his feet like Velcro. It's like, never gonna let you go, never gonna give you up. Don't know when to hold, when to fold. Five of Pentacles, almost always two people looking broke down. Little Tiny Tim and some Raggedy Ann here outside a cathedral, almost always in the imagery. snowing just to add insult to injury. Six of Pentacles is almost always a guy with a scale, and he's doling out money to the poor. It can be the masculine energy's open heart chakra because it represents generosity in that way too. And the Seven of Pentacles, this is sort of like I'm not moving as fast as I want to in terms of being a low vibration of the Chariot. But this guy is usually, you know, working in the garden, waiting for the harvest to come in. Sometimes there's a feminine figure instead. Inverted, it almost always means impatient for me. Eight of Pentacles, doing the work. Usually a dude working on making the pentacles in various configurations of workshop. Nine of Pentacles is almost always a feminine figure in the garden. Her garden is growing quite well. She often has a bird. She's got some Venus decoration there. Most people say she's a low vibration of the Empress, although this is Virgo energy. Venus in Virgo. So sort of the inner child maturing here as well. Pre-Empress, they usually say. And it's also like, a lot of people say it's like I'm doing fine on my own. The single ladies card. Ten of Pentacles. Material, comfort, happiness. This is very similar to the Four of Wands and the Ten of Cups. This is also a completion, right? I got all things are going on here. We got an old guy. We got young people starting up a new life. Everything's coming full circle, right? It's the circle of life. Building a home, happy home, all that stuff. Couple of dogs. Two cats in the yard. Oh, there is a little kid on there. Usually there's a little kid on there too, holding on to one of the dogs. So the Page of Pentacles, he's got a mountain in the background too. He's off on his journey. He's ready to deliver the message. I really like that kid. He's like, ho ho ho. 1 or 11. Knight of Pentacles, he's got a horse, but his horse is a slow as mole's asses. Right there, he's trotting slow because he doesn't want to break that thing. It's fragile. He's got to survey the land on his journey out. So Knight of Pentacles usually slow. Sometimes when he's inverted, he's either not going or he's hauling ass when he's inverted. Queen of Pentacles here. See, she's got this bower, hanging gardens here. She's also got a mountain there. But it's very, like, tied to the earth. There's a lot of vegetation and landscape happening here in this deck. I was going to say it's very fruity. Queen of Pentacles is like, grounded. She's, you know, she's learned how to garden. She's learned how to manifest. And this pentacle is huge because she's learned how to invest in it. Low vibration of the Empress. And also that 13, that rebirth energy. Generative. King of Pentacles, he's all green too. He's like the green man. With this like house from the 10 in the background. So he's very much into the earth as well. He's coming out of the garden. And he's also been able to be balanced in his money, really. He's invested in manifestation as well. Money, resources, energy, the physical body, that kind of stuff. So a lot of these cards are really similar. The Queen is usually sort of lovingly gazing into her crystal pentacle. The Knight's usually rendered so that you can tell that his horse is slower. King is usually very green. Page of Pentacles is usually sort of like staring lovingly into his pentacle as well. So that's a little bit longer of an explanation, but I mean, in terms of review, this is not the first tarot deck that I owned and used. So I did not learn on the easy standard deck. But I find that when I get decks that are unusual, sometimes when I do think back to these ones, it makes it easier. And again, learning different weird decks, atypical decks, helps understand these cards better as well. But these images are very standard, and it's helpful. And I didn't want to deal with having the regular tarot deck with the plaid on it that everybody and their frickin' mom has. So I got the little one, the little bitty Mini Rider-Waite, and I love the little one. I think if I had the full size, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. So it's tiny, it's cute, it's little, and in terms of shuffling, let me pick up all these cards here. These are good for verifying if you're using more symbolic decks, I guess. Not that these aren't symbolic, but if you're using less standardized decks, this can be a good vibe check. Let me try to get these. Okay. Because it's so little, it's difficult to shuffle it in more than one way, but it shuffles quite easily because you can get a good hold of it. That's pretty much the only way. I mean, you can't really shuffle them in sideways, so there's not much to hold on to. But when mine get too bendy, I just shuffle them backwards the other way to try to bend them back the other way a little bit. So, and if you have small hands, then a mini deck like this is good for you too. This would be good for kids that are learning, not only because it has sort of standard imagery, but because it's little. So for anyone who has small hands, like if you want to learn tarot and you really want to get in there with the shuffling and really command the deck, if you are very young or a dwarf or otherwise small, have very petite little hands, this would be good for you. And I just have a little elastic, but because it's so small, I put it the long way. And then I just keep it in a box. Alright, so that is my first review. And again, it's more of an explanation of it's in the cards, because for future reviews, I'm going to be generally comparing them to this deck. And hopefully I won't have to explain it as much. Alright, so did I chip my nails? I had a chunk of purple come off, and I don't know where from. I just did them today. So if you want to if you want me to read your tarot, I just wrote that eBay thing on there because I'm selling a doll on eBay this week. I haven't used it in a long time to sell anything. So let me try to focus that a little bit. Alright, so if you want to get a personal reading, they're going to be listed in the description box underneath. Prices and what the readings are. Everything here is through the link tree, including that doll for sale. I've got coloring books, I've got merch and prints and actual art items, some 3D stuff, plus the stuffed animals, drawings, paintings. Most of them are going to be psychedelic, like this guy. If you'd like to donate, that's PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, or you could get any manner of stuff if you'd like something for money. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, check out my playlists tab, my discussion tab, and stay groovy, and we'll see you later. Bye.